The shocking passion between humans and aliens. You won't believe what happens. Intergalactic Hearts. Welcome, fellow dreamers, to Intergalactic Hearts, a place where love transcends the stars and worlds collide in the most unexpected and breathtaking ways. I'm so glad you've joined us today, and I promise, you're about to embark on a journey unlike any other. A journey that blends passion, mystery, and the boundless curiosity of the cosmos itself. As we explore these intergalactic love stories between humans and alien civilizations, prepare to be swept away in emotions that are as vast as the universe. Now, I know what you're thinking: love between species from different worlds. It's strange, it's thrilling, and it's exactly what Intergalactic Hearts is all about. Today's video is packed with so much information, and every detail matters, so make sure you watch until the very end. Trust me, you won't want to miss a moment of this cosmic love saga. If you feel the spark of curiosity lighting up inside, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new chapter of love, mystery, and adventure. Join us as we reach for the stars together. Now, let's dive into this intergalactic story of love. Are you ready? The twin suns of Althor Prime dipped low in the sky, casting an eerie, molten glow over the vast, crystalline city that sprawled beneath them. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers, fragrant and intoxicating, and the sky shimmered in hues of violet and gold. It was a world unlike anything humanity had ever known, and yet, it was here that Sophia Harper, an explorer from Earth, was about to make an encounter that would forever alter her life. Sophia's heart raced as her shuttle descended towards the surface of Althor Prime, her fingers absently tracing the smooth, cool metal of the control panel. The planet's exotic beauty called to her, but so did a strange unease. She had been sent to document this new world, but there was a personal curiosity she couldn't shake, a curiosity about the alien race that inhabited it. The Xelorians. Tall, ethereal, and mysterious, the Xelorians were said to possess a beauty that bordered on the otherworldly. But Sophia hadn't expected to feel this strange pull toward them. As the shuttle touched down with a soft thud, the door opened, and Sophia stepped out onto the unfamiliar soil. The ground beneath her feet was soft and warm, unlike Earth's rocky terrains. As she breathed in the rich, foreign air, her senses were assaulted by 1,000 new stimuli: vibrant colors, exotic sounds, and the delicate hum of unseen life forms. Sophia wasn't alone for long. A tall, striking figure approached, his skin shimmering a deep shade of sapphire blue, his eyes a piercing silver. His presence was almost magnetic. His body, lean but muscular, moved with an effortless grace that betrayed his immense strength. "You must be Sophia Harper," he said, his voice deep and velvety, with an almost melodic quality. Sophia's breath caught in her throat, and her heart skipped a beat as his gaze locked with hers. His eyes seemed to see into her very soul, and she found herself oddly drawn to him despite the vast differences between their species. "Yes," she replied, her voice slightly shaky, though she quickly regained her composure. "I am. It's a pleasure to meet you." He smiled, a soft and knowing curve of his lips. "I am Kaelen," he said simply, as if his name alone held significance. His presence was commanding, yet somehow calming, like a distant storm that offered both excitement and tranquility. I will be your guide while you are here on Althor Prime. Sophia nodded, though a strange warmth bloomed in her chest at the sound of his name. The way he said it, there was something deeply intimate about it. As Kaelen led her through the crystalline streets of his city, she couldn't help but notice the way his movements seemed to draw her attention. The quiet power in every step. They arrived at a grand, bioorganic palace, its walls pulsing with a faint glow. The architecture was unlike anything Sophia had ever seen, blending nature with technology in ways that felt impossibly advanced. The air around them seemed to vibrate with energy, and as Kaelen opened the door, Sophia was greeted by an unexpected warmth, an overwhelming sensation of being in a place that was not only foreign but yet deeply familiar. "Welcome to my home," Kaelen said, his voice low, almost reverent. Sophia couldn't help but feel her body react to him, to the atmosphere around her. There was something about the way he stood, the way he spoke, that made her pulse quicken. Was it the alien allure, or was it something more? She couldn't tell, but she wasn't sure she wanted to. Her senses were heightened, each new sight and sound intensifying the allure that radiated from Kaelen. There was a soft hum to the air, a resonance that seemed to match the rhythmic thumping of her own heart. As she glanced back at him, his silver eyes seemed to glimmer with an unspoken understanding. Was it possible he felt it too? Sophia shook off the feeling as they entered the palace, but the questions continued to swirl in her mind. What was it about Kaelen that made her feel this way? Was it the exotic world she was in, or was it something about him, something deeply rooted in his very being? But before she could dwell on it further, Kaelen turned to face her, his gaze both intense and gentle. "There is much to show you," he said, his tone holding the promise of new discoveries. "But first, tell me, Sophia, how does it feel to be on a world so different from your own?" Sophia looked around, her senses still reeling from the sheer beauty and strangeness of it all. "It's overwhelming," she admitted. "But it's also incredible. Like nothing I could have ever imagined." Kaelen's smile deepened, and for a moment, their gazes locked in an unspoken understanding. The connection between them seemed undeniable, like the invisible pull of a magnetic force. It was almost as if the very air around them hummed with anticipation. As they continued their tour of the palace, Sophia found herself increasingly aware of Kaelen's presence. Every step he took seemed to draw her closer to him, not just physically, but emotionally. His scent, earthy and mysterious, seemed to envelop her, making it hard to focus on anything else. The way his broad shoulders filled the doorway, the subtle flex of his muscles beneath his sleek, otherworldly attire, it was all too much. Sophia had been trained to remain professional, to keep her distance, but here on this alien world, with Kaelen so close, she couldn't help but feel a stirring deep inside her. There was something magnetic about him, something she couldn't ignore. Kaelen turned to her with a slight raise of his brow, as if he had sensed the shift in her energy. "You are not like other humans," he said, his voice a whisper of curiosity. "You are different." Sophia blinked, a slight flush creeping up her neck. She wasn't sure what he meant, but the way he said it sent a shiver down her spine. "How so?" Kaelen's gaze deepened, and for a brief moment, the atmosphere between them shifted, becoming more charged. "You are open," he replied softly, "more receptive than most." Sophia's heart skipped a beat, her chest tightening in response. She didn't understand how Kaelen could read her so well, but there was no denying the truth in his words. She had come here to study the Xelorians, to understand their world, but now she was beginning to realize that there was something much deeper happening. Something she hadn't anticipated. The question was, could she allow herself to explore it? Sophia and Kaelen spent the following days exploring the wonders of Althor Prime, each moment more intimate than the last. Despite the overwhelming beauty of the planet and the information she was gathering, Sophia found herself more and more captivated by Kaelen. Each evening, they would sit together beneath the twin moons, their conversations becoming more personal, more intense. Kaelen's deep voice, the way he would gaze at her as if seeing straight into her soul, it was intoxicating. And though she told herself to keep things professional, to remember her mission, she couldn't help but be drawn to him. It wasn't just the way he looked or the way he moved, it was his presence, the energy that seemed to pulse from him. The air between them always felt charged, like the moment before a storm. The tension built slowly, silently, until it became undeniable. There was something about him that spoke to her on a level she couldn't quite comprehend. One evening, as the two of them stood in a secluded garden, surrounded by glowing flowers and soft, rustling leaves, Kaelen turned to her, his silver eyes fixed on hers. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked, his voice low and hushed. "This connection." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She had tried to ignore it, tried to dismiss the pull she felt every time he was near. But now, in this quiet, intimate moment, she couldn't deny it any longer. She nodded, her heart racing. "Yes," she whispered. "But what does it mean?" Kaelen stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. The air between them thickened, charged with something both electrifying and dangerous. "It means that we are more than just two beings from different worlds," he murmured. "It means that our fates are intertwined in ways we cannot yet understand." Sophia's pulse quickened as he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was warm, electric, and it sent a shock of heat coursing through her body. She tried to pull away, but something inside her refused to move. Kaelen's lips were barely a breath away from hers, his silver eyes studying her intently. "You are afraid," he said softly. "But you do not have to be." Sophia felt a tremor run through her, the heat between them rising with every passing second. She didn't know what would happen if she allowed this connection to unfold, but in that moment, with Kaelen so close, she didn't care. Before she could respond, Kaelen closed the gap between them, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that was gentle at first, exploratory. But as he deepened the kiss, the tension between them exploded. Sophia's body responded before her mind could process the situation, and as their kiss grew more intense, she felt a growing warmth spread through her entire being. This wasn't just physical attraction, it was something deeper, something she couldn't explain. And in that moment, as Kaelen's hands roamed over her skin, Sophia realized that her mission on Althor Prime was no longer about exploring an alien world, it was about exploring the unknown bond between her and Kaelen. Her body, her mind, and her heart were all in the midst of a transformation she wasn't sure she was ready for, but one she knew she couldn't escape. The days following that night were a whirlwind of emotions and confusion. Sophia tried to focus on her mission, on the data she needed to gather for Earth, but every time she saw Kaelen, her heart raced and her mind wandered back to the kiss they had shared. The connection between them had deepened, in a way she hadn't anticipated. And while her scientific curiosity about Althor Prime and the Xelorians remained, something deep within her was beginning to question whether she could ignore the pull between them any longer. Kaelen seemed to sense the conflict within her, the tension she couldn't hide. He continued to guide her through Althor Prime, introducing her to new wonders and cultures, but every time they were alone, the air between them thickened. Their conversations shifted from scientific discussions to more personal matters. Kaelen spoke of his people's history, their struggles, their dreams. And yet, despite the wisdom in his voice, Sophia couldn't help but feel drawn to him. His voice, deep and melodic, seemed to reverberate through her very bones. It was a sound that comforted her but also made her ache with longing. One afternoon, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the shimmering cityscape of Althor Prime, Sophia couldn't ignore the feeling that had been growing inside her. She turned to Kaelen, her heart pounding as she tried to find the right words to express what had been weighing on her. "I don't know what to do anymore," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I came here to do my job, to observe and report. But this connection we share, it's changing everything." Kaelen didn't immediately respond. Instead, he stepped closer, his silver eyes locking with hers. There was an intensity in his gaze, a silent understanding that seemed to pass between them. The space between them grew smaller, his body heat radiating toward her, and she could feel the familiar pull of attraction tugging at her. "You don't have to make a decision right now," Kaelen said, his voice gentle yet firm. "The bond between us, it's something neither of us can control. But it's real, Sophia. And I can feel it, too." Sophia swallowed hard, her pulse quickening as she took in the warmth of his words. It was as if he had just spoken the truth that she had been trying to deny. The truth that had been growing in the pit of her stomach since the first moment she laid eyes on him. But there was more to it than just the physical attraction. There was something deeper, something intangible that connected them. She could feel it every time he looked at her, every time their hands brushed accidentally. "I'm not afraid of the connection," she said, finally meeting his gaze, her voice stronger. "I'm afraid of what it means. Of what this could cost." Kaelen reached out, his hand brushing against her cheek, his touch sending a wave of heat through her body. His touch was gentle, tender, and yet, Sophia couldn't help but feel the intensity of his desire radiating off him. He leaned in slightly, his breath warm against her skin. "It could cost us everything, Sophia," he murmured. "But isn't it worth the risk?" Sophia's heart skipped a beat, and she felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She didn't have an answer. Not yet. But there was something in Kaelen's touch, in the way he made her feel, that told her that the risk was worth it. Before she could speak, Kaelen took her hand and led her away from the balcony, guiding her down the winding corridors of his palace. His touch was electric, and she couldn't help but follow, each step closer to him sending shivers down her spine. As they reached a quiet, secluded room at the heart of the palace, Kaelen turned to her, his silver eyes softening. You don't have to decide right now, Sophia, he said, his voice a low whisper. But know that I'll be here, always, no matter the choice you make. Sophia nodded, her breath shallow as she felt the weight of his words. She didn't know what the future held, but as she looked into his eyes, she knew that this, whatever this was something she couldn't simply walk away from. Kaelen took a step back, and for a moment, they simply stood there in silence. The tension between them hanging in the air. Sophia could feel the heat of the moment, the pull between them, but she also knew that there was more to this connection than just physical attraction. Kaelen reached out once again, his fingers brushing against her arm, sending another wave of electricity through her. Whenever you're ready, Sophia, he said softly, I'll be here. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty and tension. Sophia tried to maintain a sense of professionalism as she continued her mission, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Kaelen. His presence lingered in her mind, in her body, and it became harder and harder to focus on anything else. Their connection was undeniable, and though she tried to keep a distance, it was growing increasingly impossible. Kaelen seemed to sense her inner turmoil, though he never pressed her to make a decision. Instead, he continued to show her the wonders of Althor Prime, guiding her through the advanced technology and the breathtaking landscapes. Each experience was more mesmerizing than the last, and yet, every time she looked at him, her heart would race. His physical beauty was impossible to ignore, tall and strong, with a commanding presence that left her breathless. But it wasn't just his appearance. It was the way he made her feel. He made her feel alive in ways she had never experienced before. One evening, as they walked through a lush forest of bioluminescent plants, Kaelen stopped and turned to her. His silver eyes were intense, as though he were searching for something in her expression. "Are you afraid?" he asked quietly, his voice low but filled with concern. Sophia's heart fluttered in her chest. She wasn't sure what to say. Part of her was afraid of the unknown, of the consequences that this connection could bring. But another part of her, a deeper part, was terrified of the possibility of letting go. Of surrendering to the pull between them. "I'm afraid of losing control," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Afraid of what this will mean for both of us." Kaelen took a step closer, his body radiating warmth. "Sophia," he said softly, "control has never been ours to begin with. What we have is something rare, something that doesn't come along often. And maybe, just maybe, it's something we should embrace, rather than fight." Sophia's breath caught in her throat as Kaelen reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek. She closed her eyes at the sensation of his touch, the warmth spreading throughout her body. She could feel the heat rising between them, the undeniable chemistry that sparked every time they were near. Kaelen leaned in, his breath brushing against her skin. "Trust me," he whispered, before his lips pressed against hers. The kiss was gentle at first, soft and slow, as if they were both testing the waters. But as the seconds stretched on, the kiss deepened, and Sophia found herself surrendering to him, to the overwhelming emotions flooding through her. For the first time since she had arrived on Althor Prime, she allowed herself to forget everything else, her mission, her fears, her doubts. There was only Kaelen and the way he made her feel. Alive. whole. And more than anything, she felt a sense of connection to him that transcended words. It was a bond that neither of them could explain, but that they both knew was there, pulling them closer with every passing moment. As the kiss ended, they both stood there in the glowing light of the forest, breathless, with the weight of what had just transpired hanging heavy in the air. Sophia opened her eyes, meeting Kaelen's gaze, and for the first time, she felt a sense of peace. She wasn't sure what the future would bring, but in that moment, she knew that whatever happened, she wasn't alone. The days after their kiss were a blur of emotions, each one more intense than the last. Sophia tried to maintain some semblance of distance, but every time she saw Kaelen, the pull between them was impossible to ignore. They had shared a connection that neither of them could explain, and yet, it was undeniable. There was something between them that transcended their physical attraction, a bond that seemed to resonate deep within both of them, like a cosmic force drawing them together. Kaelen continued to show Sophia the wonders of Althor Prime, but the more they spent time together, the more she found herself caught up in his presence. His voice, low and melodic, seemed to soothe her, yet at the same time, it ignited something within her, a deep yearning she couldn't quite control. His touch, when he brushed her hand or placed his hand on the small of her back, sent shivers through her body. And when their gazes met, she felt a connection that went beyond mere attraction, something ancient, something eternal. One evening, as they sat together on a balcony overlooking the sprawling city of Althor Prime, Kaelen turned to her, his eyes dark with unspoken thoughts. "I told you before," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "that the bond between us was real. But I'm not sure you understand the depths of it. It's not just something physical, Sophia. It's something that's been waiting for us, something beyond both of us." Sophia's heart quickened at his words, but she didn't look away. There was a sincerity in his gaze that made her chest tighten. She had felt it too, this connection that seemed to go deeper than anything she had ever known. But was she ready to give herself over to it completely? To let go of her fears, her doubts, and just let herself fall into the unknown? "I don't know if I can fully understand it," she said quietly, her voice filled with uncertainty. "But I feel it. I feel it every time I'm near you. I don't know what it means, Kaelen. I don't know what it will cost us." Kaelen's expression softened, and he reached out to gently touch her cheek, his fingers warm against her skin. "The only thing that matters, Sophia, is that we're here, now. Together. And whatever happens, we face it as one." His words, so simple and yet so profound, filled Sophia with a sense of calm she hadn't expected. She had come to Althor Prime for a mission, to collect data and return to Earth, but somewhere along the way, her heart had become entwined with Kaelen's in ways she hadn't anticipated. "You're right," she whispered, her voice catching in her throat. "But I'm afraid. Afraid of losing myself in this. Afraid of losing you." Kaelen's gaze softened as he leaned in, his lips brushing against her forehead in a tender kiss. "You won't lose yourself, Sophia," he murmured against her skin. "You'll find yourself here, with me. And I'll be with you every step of the way." His words sent a wave of warmth through her, and for the first time in days, Sophia allowed herself to close her eyes and relax. letting go of the tension that had built up inside her. The moment was fragile, suspended in time, and for a fleeting second, the weight of the universe seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, connected by something greater than both of them. When she opened her eyes again, Kaelen was still there, his presence grounding her, his touch sending ripples through her body. And in that moment, she knew she couldn't walk away. No matter the consequences, no matter the unknowns that lay ahead, she was ready to take the leap. The days that followed were a mixture of discovery and uncertainty. Kaelen continued to show Sophia the wonders of Althor Prime, guiding her through the breathtaking landscapes and introducing her to the intricacies of his people's culture. But as they spent more time together, Sophia found herself drawn deeper into the mystery of their connection. Each touch, each whispered word, only heightened the feelings that had been growing inside her. And yet, despite the passion that simmered between them, there was still a sense of fear that she couldn't fully surrender to the connection. That she couldn't fully give herself to Kaelen. They had explored the glittering cities, the lush forests, and the vast plains of Althor Prime. And yet there was still so much more to discover. Sophia knew that her mission was far from over, that she had only scratched the surface of the mysteries surrounding Kaelen's world. But each day spent in his company felt like an exploration of a different kind of journey into her own heart, into the depths of her own desires and fears. One evening, as they walked through a tranquil garden filled with flowers that glowed in the moonlight, Kaelen turned to her with a serious expression. "I know you're struggling with this," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with concern. "I can feel it. The uncertainty, the fear. But I need you to understand, Sophia. This bond between us, it's not something we can fight. It's not something we can control. It's a part of us, of who we are." Sophia paused, her hand brushing against a glowing petal. She had always prided herself on her control, on her ability to keep emotions in check, but Kaelen had shown her a side of herself she had never explored before. A side that felt vulnerable, raw, and uncertain. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she confessed, her voice soft. "I've never felt something like this before, Kaelen. And it scares me." Kaelen reached out, taking her hand in his fingers warm against her skin. "You don't have to be ready," he said gently. "You just have to trust that whatever happens, we'll face it together. We'll figure it out as we go." Sophia felt a wave of emotion crash over her as she looked into his eyes. His words, his touch, they were everything she needed to hear in that moment. She didn't know where this journey would lead, or what it would cost her, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't alone. With a deep breath, she stepped closer to Kaelen, closing the distance between them. The air around them seemed to hum with anticipation, and when their lips met in a kiss, it was as though the universe itself paused, holding its breath. It was a kiss full of unspoken promises, full of longing and desire. And for the first time, Sophia allowed herself to fully surrender to the connection between them. As they pulled away, Kaelen smiled softly, his silver eyes filled with a mixture of affection and something deeper, something that spoke of a bond that was growing stronger with each passing moment. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said, his voice filled with a quiet confidence. "And whatever happens, we'll face it together." Sophia nodded, her heart racing. She didn't know what the future held, but in Kaelen's arms, she felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. For the first time since arriving on Althor Prime, she felt as though she was exactly where she was meant to be. The days that followed their shared kiss were filled with both exhilaration and uncertainty. As Sophia allowed herself to grow closer to Kaelen, every moment with him seemed to stir something deeper within her. She had never expected to feel so strongly for someone, let alone an alien from another world. But as they spent more time together, she couldn't deny the attraction. There was a magnetic pull between them that seemed impossible to ignore, an unspoken connection that stretched far beyond physical attraction. Despite the undeniable chemistry, there was still a part of Sophia that hesitated. Unsure whether she was ready to fully embrace the bond they shared. There were moments when Kaelen's touch would send her heart racing. And his voice, low, melodic, with an almost hypnotic quality, would wrap around her like a velvet blanket, making her feel both safe and vulnerable. His presence was intoxicating, and she often found herself longing for more. But the fear of losing herself in this connection still lingered, like a shadow at the edge of her mind. Her life on Earth had been regimented, controlled, everything had a place and a purpose. Here, with Kaelen, things felt different. They were unpredictable, volatile, and yet thrilling. As they explored more of Althor Prime, the planet's beauty only added to the intoxicating nature of their connection. The crystalline structures of the city seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow, while the bioluminescent plants in the forest seemed to hum with energy, as if the very ground beneath them was alive. Everywhere she looked, there were new wonders to discover, but it wasn't the planet itself that held her attention, it was Kaelen. One evening, they stood at the edge of a vast cliff, gazing at the twin moons of Althor Prime hanging low in the sky. The cool night air brushed against Sophia's skin, and the distant hum of the planet's energy fields vibrated in the air around them. Kaelen stood beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth radiating toward her. "I don't understand what's happening between us," Sophia confessed, her voice quiet but filled with raw honesty. "I feel so drawn to you, Kaelen. It's like I can't stop thinking about you. But I'm scared. What if this bond is something we can't control? What if we get lost in it?" Kaelen turned to her, his silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. His expression softened as he reached out, gently cupping her face with his hand. "You won't get lost, Sophia. This bond, this connection, it's not something to be afraid of. It's part of who we are. But I understand your fear. I feel it too." Sophia closed her eyes at his touch, feeling his warmth spread through her, grounding her in a way she couldn't explain. His hand on her face, his touch so tender yet full of strength, made her heart race. She wanted to believe him, to trust that everything would be okay. But the fear still lingered, like a heavy weight on her chest. "You're not like anyone I've ever known, Kaelen," she said softly, her eyes opening to meet his gaze. "You make me feel things I don't know how to handle. I don't know how to be with you, how to be this, vulnerable." Kaelen's eyes darkened, and he took a step closer, his lips barely brushing her ear as he spoke. "I'll never force you to be something you're not, Sophia. But I need you to understand something. This bond between us isn't about control. It's about trust. Trust in each other, trust in what we share. You don't have to fight it, because it's not going away. All you have to do is accept it. Sophia felt a shiver run through her at his words, and for a moment, the world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them standing together under the glow of Althor Prime's moons. She could feel the warmth of his breath on her skin, the pull of his presence like gravity. And for the first time, she didn't want to fight it. She wanted to let go. Without thinking, she leaned in, closing the gap between them. Kaelen's lips met hers in a kiss that was both gentle and fierce. A kiss that seemed to ignite something deep inside her. Her body responded instinctively, her hands reaching up to pull him closer, her heart racing in time with his. For a moment, everything felt right. She felt alive in a way she never had before, unfiltered, raw, and completely present with him. The fear that had held her back began to melt away, replaced by something far more powerful, a feeling of being truly seen, truly understood. When they finally pulled apart, both of them breathless, Kaelen looked at her with a quiet intensity. "I don't want to rush you, Sophia," he said softly, his voice filled with an emotion that took her by surprise. "But whatever you decide, know that I'm here. I'm with you." Sophia's heart pounded in her chest, her mind still reeling from the intensity of the kiss. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what the future held. But in that moment, standing there with Kaelen, she felt something shift within her. Maybe she didn't need to understand everything right away. Maybe all she needed was to trust in what she felt, and in him. As the days went on, the connection between Kaelen and Sophia deepened. Their bond was undeniable, growing stronger with each passing moment. But with that deepening connection came new challenges, both external and internal. While Sophia had come to terms with her feelings for Kaelen, the complexities of their relationship weighed heavily on her. There were still so many unknowns, so many things about their worlds, their cultures, that remained unexplored. Althor Prime, though beautiful, was not without its tensions. The ruling council was divided, and there were factions within the government that did not approve of Kaelen's open relationship with a human emissary. They believed that Sophia's presence, her bond with Kaelen, was a threat to the fragile balance of power within their society. The whispers grew louder, and the political unrest that had simmered beneath the surface for so long was beginning to bubble over. Sophia found herself caught between two worlds. On one hand, there was Kaelen, the one person who made her feel like she belonged, who saw her not as an outsider, but as an equal. On the other hand, there were the responsibilities that came with her mission, her duty to Earth, her obligation to collect data and report back, and the growing fear that she might be caught in the middle of a war between the Xelorians and the humans. One evening, after another heated discussion with the council members, Kaelen and Sophia walked together through the palace's private gardens. The tension between them was palpable, and the weight of the situation pressed heavily on Sophia's shoulders. "I can't keep pretending like everything's fine," Sophia said quietly, her voice tinged with frustration. "I'm caught in the middle of all of this. I want to be with you, Kaelen. But I don't know what it means for the future. I don't know if I can just ignore the consequences of our bond." Kaelen's expression softened, and he reached for her hand. "You don't have to fight this alone," he said gently. "Whatever happens, I'll be by your side. I'm not asking you to ignore the consequences, Sophia. But I'm asking you to choose. Choose us. Choose me." His words stirred something deep within her, and for the first time in days, she felt a sense of clarity. She didn't know what the future held, and she didn't know how everything would unfold. But one thing was certain: she couldn't deny what she felt for Kaelen. And perhaps, for the first time, she didn't need to. The days that followed Kaelen's plea were a blur of emotions and indecision. Sophia found herself at a crossroads. She couldn't deny the intensity of what she felt for him. His presence was magnetic, his touch electrifying. Their connection was undeniable, an invisible thread that seemed to bind them in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. But with every moment she spent with Kaelen, she felt the weight of her responsibilities growing heavier, pressing against the very heart of her desire. As much as she wanted to surrender to the pull of their bond, her mind kept circling back to the consequences. The political tension in Althor Prime was palpable, and every step she took seemed to move her further away from her mission. She had come to this planet as an emissary, a representative of Earth, but the line between duty and desire was becoming increasingly blurred. Sophia knew that the council members were watching her closely, waiting for her to slip up. They saw her as a symbol of peace, yes, but also as a potential threat to their fragile political system. Kaelen, despite his status as a high-ranking officer, was also seen as a controversial figure, a man who had chosen to pursue a bond with a human, a species that many on Althor Prime still viewed as inferior. And as much as she tried to ignore it, Sophia couldn't escape the feeling that their love, or whatever this connection was being used as a political pawn in a game she didn't fully understand. One evening, as the twin moons of Althor Prime rose over the horizon, Kaelen took Sophia to a secluded spot at the edge of the city. The bioluminescent flowers of the forest glowed softly around them, casting an ethereal light that made everything feel surreal. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora, their fragrance intoxicating, and the sounds of distant wildlife echoed through the trees. Kaelen took Sophia's hand, leading her to a stone bench that overlooked the shimmering city below. "I know you're conflicted," he said softly, his voice low and soothing. "But I need you to understand that I'm not asking you to abandon everything. I'm asking you to trust me, trust us." Sophia sat beside him, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. "I do trust you, Kaelen," she said quietly, her eyes focused on the distant city lights. "But this isn't just about us. It's about everything else. It's about the future of both of our worlds. What if we're making a mistake? What if this connection is more than we can handle?" Kaelen turned to her, his silver eyes locking with hers, full of an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. "I don't believe this is a mistake, Sophia. I believe we were meant to find each other. Our worlds are on the brink of a new beginning, and maybe we're the ones who can make that happen. But I can't do it without you." The words he spoke were both comforting and terrifying. Sophia felt a rush of emotions flood through her: hope, fear, longing, but most of all, the undeniable pull of her feelings for him. She wanted to say yes, to let herself fall into the embrace of this bond, to trust him completely. but the weight of her responsibility as an emissary to Earth still hung over her like a cloud. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for this," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know how to navigate both of these worlds. My heart wants you, but my mind keeps reminding me of the consequences." Kaelen's fingers brushed against her cheek, his touch tender yet firm. "You don't have to navigate this alone," he said softly. "We'll figure it out together. We're stronger than you think, Sophia. We've already crossed a line. There's no turning back now." As he leaned in, his lips hovered just above hers, the warmth of his breath sending shivers down her spine. She could feel the magnetic pull between them, stronger than ever, and in that moment, Sophia knew she couldn't resist him anymore. She couldn't resist this connection. The kiss that followed was slow, deliberate, as though they were savoring every moment of it. Sophia's heart raced in her chest as Kaelen's lips pressed against hers, and the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, two souls, bound together by something far greater than either of them could understand. For the first time, Sophia allowed herself to surrender fully to the kiss, to the bond that was growing stronger with each passing second. She felt the rush of desire fill her veins, and the warmth of his touch spread through her body like wildfire. As they pulled away, their breaths heavy and their hearts pounding, Sophia realized that she had crossed the line. There was no going back now. "I'm with you, Kaelen," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but filled with a certainty that surprised even her. "I trust you." Kaelen's eyes softened, and he smiled, his smile full of both relief and tenderness. "Then let's take this journey together, Sophia. Whatever happens, we'll face it as one." The connection between Sophia and Kaelen had grown undeniable. Each touch, each kiss, each moment shared between them was like a spark that ignited something deeper, more powerful. But as their bond strengthened, so too did the forces that sought to tear them apart. The council's disapproval grew louder, and whispers of rebellion began to stir within the ranks of Althor Prime's political elite. They saw the bond between Sophia and Kaelen as a threat, a dangerous symbol of change that could disrupt the established order. The idea of a human and a Xelorian forming such a deep connection was unacceptable to many, and it was only a matter of time before the political tension reached a boiling point. Sophia could feel the pressure mounting with each passing day. She had come to Althor Prime with the hope of fostering peace, of bridging the gap between two worlds. But now, it felt as though she had become entangled in something much bigger, something that could either save their worlds or destroy them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kaelen took Sophia aside, away from the prying eyes of the palace. The weight of the situation was evident in his expression, his usually calm demeanor now tinged with concern. "We need to prepare," he said quietly, his voice filled with a rare urgency. "The council is closing in. They're not going to let us continue this relationship without a fight. We've already crossed too many lines." Sophia's heart sank at his words. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing it out loud made it all the more real. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Kaelen took her hand in his grip firm and reassuring. "We fight. We fight for what we built together, for the future we both want. We have allies, Sophia, and we're not alone in this." But we need to act quickly. Sophia nodded, her mind racing as she thought about the choices ahead of her. There was no easy answer, no simple solution. The path they were about to walk was dangerous, filled with obstacles and uncertainty. But one thing was clear: she couldn't let fear dictate her actions anymore. With a deep breath, she looked into Kaelen's eyes, her heart resolute. Then let's face it together. The storm was approaching, but they were ready. Together, they would fight for their love, for their worlds, and for the future that had already begun to unfold before them. Well, fellow travelers, that's it for today's incredible journey through the galaxies. I hope you felt the love, the longing, and the excitement just as much as I did. These stories are not just about romance, they're about connection, discovery, and finding something deeper than what we ever imagined possible. And if this story has touched your heart, don't forget to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. What do you think about love across the stars? Do you think it's possible? I can't wait to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this video and want to keep exploring more worlds with us, make sure to subscribe to Intergalactic Hearts, because there's so much more to come. And remember, love has no boundaries, not even in the vast expanse of the universe. Thank you for being part of this amazing adventure. Until next time, keep your heart open, and keep your eyes on the stars. See you soon.